Hi guys, Dom here from eSports News UK. Wow, what a past few days and where to start. There's been a lot of drama flying around UK League of Legends, I'm sure you're all aware, and this video is not designed to be bringing all of that back up again. I just wanted to provide a bit of analysis and look at people's reactions as to what's happened, because it got a lot of people talking, even people outside of the UK scene, some of the pros in LCS, some of the UK guys, people from different eSports, from CSGO and things like that. So I wanted to look at the lessons we can learn from the whole situation. I don't want to be taking sides or anything like that, but just to try and look at it a bit objectively and what we can do to try and stop stuff like this happening in the future. So it's tied in a little bit with the initial story I wrote, which was about a lot of team roster changes at the last minute before the roster locks at the start of the week. And most of it was to do with Last Remedy, a new org that had come in and shaken things up and got a good roster together, and at the last minute they brought in Toaster, Nutri, and a few other players, Rifty in the top lane from M&M. So they brought those guys in, and it left teams like Excel in a bit of a predicament because some of their players had gone, and it's all last minute changes and all that hoo-ha, and Last Remedy apologised. Now at that time it wasn't public knowledge, it wasn't in the story, it hadn't been announced. Last Remedy also brought on board Tundra as a coach, and people in the UK scene will know Tundra. He's played in it for years, I think 5 years or so, and has won various lands and things like that. And he's someone who, I'm sure he'll agree with me, is not afraid to speak his mind. So he joined as coach. Now over the next sort of day or two, as we understand it, he sort of made some demands or tried to negotiate with some of the management. Grant, the CEO, Grant Russell at Last Remedy, who's no longer there, and I'll come on to that. So Tundra was asking for 85% of the LAN winnings to go to the players. Of course, and the players, some of the players say, they're behind Tundra. They wanted Tundra to do this stuff to represent them, so that's fine. Last Remedy met the demands, and Last Remedy say he asked for another 10% after that, which would have left the org with 5% of winnings. Now Tundra's denied that. Where to talk? I mean, there's so much stuff that happened. Basically, Last Remedy said that they felt threatened and bullied and manipulated. So it seems to be that Tundra or players in the team have said to them, we want guarantee that you guys will be able to pay for us to go to LAN. Are you doing anything with sponsors, that kind of thing, and tried to push them towards that. Then a suggestion arose that maybe the org... sorry, I'll go back a few steps. So I think Tundra suggested that the two coaches that were there at the time should leave. That's what Last Remedy claimed, that Tundra requested that the coaches should leave. And Last Remedy did let the coaches go. And while this was happening, it's getting to the point where Last Remedy are meeting these demands, but they're growing a bit uncomfortable with the situation. I mean, at least that's the impression I got. And during the match between Last Remedy and Perilous the other day, Last Remedy management approached me and just told me their side of the story and their situation. And they felt pressured that they'd have to sell their spot to another org. And they weren't sure. The message they were hearing from Tundra was that the spot is owned by the players, apparently. now, and they weren't sure whether they owned the spot or not, if the players owned the spot, and they felt a bit blackmailed that if they didn't get a new org or guarantee of sponsor money and all that stuff, that the players would just take their spot, boot management out, and play under a team of 5, an orgless 5, until they got a new owner. So they were worried that they'd lose their spot. And now there's a bit of confusion here. Tundra and some of the players claim that ESL told them that the players own the spot, and then ESL were also unsure and telling Last Remedy that because they're not a legal entity, there needs to be a license holder, and apparently that license did belong to co-owner Lewis Green, which is accurate, right? I found that to be the case. So, but Grant has felt a sort of broken man, as he put it, and he's left now. And it's a shame because he put together, I thought, a really good team in a short space of time. It is true, yeah, he doesn't have the experience. Maybe he did act a bit naive, and he's left now. But it's a bit of a shame because I think, you know, he had good promise, a lot of potential, and could have been a good org owner. And he's left now. He's been permanently put off by the UK league scene, which is easily done, right? But he's gone. And then there was some chat logs that Tundra and Grant also shared with me, which I put in full, and you can check it all out on the story if you want, and I'll put the link in the description. But yeah, I've tried to summarise, but I don't want this to be the main focus of this video. I wanted to look at the lessons to learn from this, player power, coach power, and also what people think of it. So just going straight into Twitter now. Alicus, who's manager of Misfits, they played in the ESL Prem as Renegades Banditos last split and won. Went through the Challenger Series, got to the LCS. I'm doing an interview with him soon, so yeah, hopefully in the next week or so we'll have that up. And he sort of summarised it in a TLDR. Last Remedy builds roster. Tundra says, I'm coach now. Last Remedy, what? Okay. Tundra says, we go to new org. Last Remedy, what? Don't go. Take me with you. Tundra, lol, now. In a nutshell, you could see it as that way. And I'll come on to both sides. Tundra came back and said there was some false allegations from Last Remedy, and he's put up his response. I'll come to all that. So Prosfair is saying word of mouth means nothing. We just have the chat logs to go from, and those chat logs started halfway through of a dialogue between Tundra and management. You know, the guys had already been talking, so we don't know what was discussed before that. Haddo, support for Eminem, has said trust a known arsehole or random org. My guess goes to random org, just saying. And Tundra's responded evidence versus no evidence regardless of opinion. And you'll see from a few comments that I don't think Haddo's too happy with the situation. So Lewis, management at Last Remedy has said that they had not considered selling the org after picking up the new roster. It was only after we heard nothing stops the players going to another org because the players own the spot that we considered selling. I've covered all that. Toaster has stepped in here and says, not sure why everyone is siding with the org. Tundra's been doing everything us players asked of him. Hashtag UK scene. Which I was saying earlier, you know, the players wanted Tundra to represent them. And then Alicus from Misfits has made some good points here. Listen up, I'm all for player power, but he or even you guys shouldn't just force this kind of deal on an org. You guys keep using the argument that Last Remedy grew into a task too big for its backers and sponsors are needed, but you guys knew this already before the roster lock, so you should have committed to another org by then. I mean, I assume you already had deals in place. And then you wanted more, and yes, I'm sure you guys deserve to make more money, but the timing is horrid. The best way forward is full transparency and mature cooperation for sale. Maybe look into using a third party for talks. And Toaster's admitted good points. Honestly, just wish the situation was handled better from both ends, and I'd agree with that. I think both ends could have handled the situation better. Okay, and yeah, Tundra will come on to the other evidence stuff in a bit. I will say quickly, Last Remedy did say eventually that they'd agreed to pay for taking a team to lands. So I'm not sure if that was the case. Why people were pushing them to sell to another org. Did they want more money? I'm not sure. Kassing has spoken up about it here. UK support for Team Vitality. Obviously, he played in the UK scene a few years back, and so he's saying about getting Maxlaw and Alfari make an insane UK super team. Marcus Blom saying he's forming the team. So those guys, reached their timeline and they were talking about it. So UK analyst Jarge has said, and he's been at Fnatic and TSM. My concern is why a UK org needs 3 coaches at all. Like, seriously, one coach can barely make a difference when your team never practices. I kind of agree with that. I haven't worked in a team as such, but when I see some that have 3 or 4 mix of coaches and analysts, I don't know, is it a case of too many cooks spoil the broth? I don't know. I guess in this case it was, because 2 coaches left. Those guys are back now. The situation has been resolved, but nonetheless, we still go through what people were saying about it. Luke Z from Eminem has criticised Grant over the handling of the situation. Says, how could someone with a business degree say something like this? I thought there was morals and honesty in this kind of business. Okay. And going back to Kassing, he said UK LoL scene equals vote leave. Now I understand Brexit and why 52% of people wanted to leave. Makes sense now. Hashtag UK LCS forever. Very nice. And then Amazing's come back and said EU LCS scene equals hashtag vote disband. So, whether you hate the story or not, it's out there now. It's something that's happened. You can choose to ignore it. You can choose to dislike me for covering the story, but I'm going to be covering stories like this. So, and people have seen it and reacted to it. There's some confusing comments here from Tundra. Tundra's saying, let's believe these random guys, implying Last Remedy management. And Numlocked, now an Overwatch pro for Team Dignitas, and was in the UK scene before, said, why are they random guys? You all chose to join this org in the first place, no? And Tundra said, well, they had a spot in the Premiership. I never joined the org. The players asked me to coach, so I did. Now there's a problem there. There may be a problem with the org just letting Tundra join without actually maybe talking to him properly about what the org is about, and making it clear that he's part of the org, not just a coach that's with the players. There's a clear disconnect there, and I find that a bit strange. Munchables, caster in the UK Prem, has said to Tundra, so you were coaching the team and asking for spec slots, but you weren't their coach, ? And there was no reply to that. That seemed a little bit odd. And Haddo's coming in hard as well, saying, wait, Last Remedy qualified with a different roster for the ESL Prem. Why are you trying to own the spot? To Tundra, people don't change. Tundra's saying, I wouldn't own the spot anyway. And Haddo said, and you're not an org, so stop acting like one. If it goes tits up, you take the blame like now. And Toaster said, let's face it, if it was anyone other than Tundra, people wouldn't have overreacted like this. Haddo said, well, why would you let him handle this? I don't know. You guys done goofed, in my opinion. So there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of negativity from this, but I hope we can all learn from it. Frozen Dawn was saying, hyped for Last Remedy roster announcement. When the dust settles, can't see a positive outcome for them. Okay, Maxlaw's weighed in here, of the jungler for Giants Gaming, and they played in the UK scene last year, and won one of the splits with Team Infused. It said, UK scene is filled with them drama queen skets from high school. All about that lunch money, says Alicus. Okay, so it's all memey stuff. It's all banter and silliness, typical UK scene. And he also said, if you've got time to read a long ass article about esports drama in the UK and debate it on Twitter, then good luck in esports. Okay, so Excoundrel, caster in the UK scene, he's come out with a bit of analysis. He's posted a twit longer, basically saying orgs need to stop promising shit they can't afford and isn't sustainable. Should not be offering salaries to players if your org is only invested in UK League and you aren't backed by about 10k worth of savings. He's talking about, we should be getting sponsors on board. And then coaching staff should not be used as your means of negotiations with players. If it comes to that, you've failed your player-org relations and you need to step up. You need to be directly talking to your players about their concerns and expectations. What's happened here is Tundra's come on board and has started managing the players. He's got obviously a close relationship with some of those guys, and he's going to do what he feels best for them and himself, obviously. And maybe Last Remedy let that grip slip on, they should have been managing the whole situation and having coaches in place that still sided with them closely, So Excandrel's talking about he's saying your UK scene to the players, UK scene is not profitable. You cannot expect salaries and expect your org to last more than a few months unless they have a huge investor that doesn't care about throwing money away. Don't be afraid to talk to your own about your concerns. And the main thing I feel from this is, if you're sponsored for LAN, you better believe that the org is entitled to take a cut to cover their costs, assuming they take first place. If an org sponsors you to go to LAN, you're lucky and you should act like it. This is it's not your job. And then if you go there, it's your job. It's not a social event. Don't take contracts to be binding, and you mentioned some of the stuff Richard Lewis told us in a recent video, which if you haven't checked it out, please do. There's lots of good advice in there as well for orgs. And he says, please try to respect your team and grow as a unit. Team hopping does no one good and will hurt the scene. I completely forgot where I was going with this, so a little bit of waffle from Excusecast there. Thank you, mate. Okay, Grant said a few things. He's willing to give up and everything to expose what's happened, and he just wants out now. He feels like he's been played, blackmailed, threatened, and more. He did not expect blackmail, casual threats, and fraud to be a day-to-day thing for him. And he's out. He's had enough. He's got a career pursuit and a life to live. I give up trying to be a decent person in this. Again, some of those claims denied by Tundra. Near here, who was coach for Choke, I believe, recently until they sort of fell apart, said any org which is taking a cut from ESL UK is a bad org in my opinion. ESL pay for everything and the org gets free promotion, so he's, I guess, siding with the players and the coach a little bit more there. The sooner the orgs realise they're lucky to have good players in a scene which doesn't have contracts, the better. Choke were really good org in this sense, didn't take a single cut from ESL winnings or I-Series winnings. But Caster Trid's come in and said, look what happened to Choke though, I don't think it's as cut as dry as that. And Near here said, but they had legal issues, it wasn't a typical death. We're on a tangent here. Raisins from TCA said, it just feels like players don't understand how much trouble it is to get an org together in the first place. Player entitlement, not saying who's right and wrong, just if you want land support and sponsors you have to prove you deserve it, and showing loyalty and things like that. And he's spoken about his time with TCA, who have gone from I think a bottom. Oh, actually, we're quite well. Doing quite well a year or so back, and a few of their players moved to Infused at the last minute, Alfari and so on, I believe, could be wrong there. And then Raisins has been around with the team and gone from that era to getting a lot better, and they look like one of the top teams this split. So, and he said, I stuck with TCA because I actually like the org. It doesn't always happen, but sometimes it can work out if you work hard enough. Derry a caster has said that as arrogant as it sounds, the state of finances in esports orgs versus conventional business is appalling. Rob Allen from Eminem, and also does some stuff for us as well. He said that he's legit had zero drama since joining the UK scene. I don't know, it's really not as hard as people make out. So Reclamation, Perilous analyst and coach has said, respect your opponents, people in the scene, focus on your own team. Drama just distracts from improving. I agree with that. So we move on to Tundra's twit longer, broken up into parts. So a bit of his background. He admits to the bluntness of the way he speaks, and has been a massive burden for him in hundreds of scenarios. I intend no aggression, he said, no malicious intent, but I do get to the point and I don't beat around the bush or work quickly. That's going on to what I was saying earlier about him and his personality. So he's going through his timeline. He approached Toaster last Sunday offering to assist him as his own personal coach, nothing to do with the team whatsoever. Now, I disagree with you there, Tundra. You can't coach someone who works for a team, who's playing for a team, and have nothing to do with the team. That player is playing for that team at that point. Okay, a personal coach, I see what you're saying there, but if that player plays for that team, you're going to have some kind of involvement, in my opinion, anyway. And then he says Toaster brought Tundra onto TeamSpeak with management of Last Remedy, and they were happy to bring Tundra in. And then on Monday, I don't want to go into too much of this. You know, the twit longer's out there. Go and read it. Blah 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 blah. And he does admit at a point, from here my ego takes over, and I asked to be appointed as head coach. I believed that a leadership role for me would be the best thing for the team's progress, and the players agreed to this. After some backlash, the management does agree, and we end the night with me assigning tasks to John and Mac, the other coaches, for upcoming scrims. And then it comes into the point of paying for like travel and accommodation at upcoming LAN. And Tundra admits, this is where I begin to overstep my boundaries. The players had raised concerns around why there were 3 coaches when they only saw a need for 1. I kind of agree with that, but I still think it's a bit out of order, like pushing those other 2 coaches out that were there from the start. However, that should have been dealt with Last Remedy. That is, if that's a problem that happened, that is a failing with Last Remedy management. They should have handled the situation better, in my opinion. If they didn't like the way it was going with Tundra, they should have said goodbye to him. As simple as that. So, blah 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 blah. Tundra says, I believe the coaches wouldn't last and would be naturally unhappy, so upgraded the players concerned with what they need to have 3 coaches to want the other 2 removed. This was extremely wrong and something I massively regret, because later that evening I changed my mind and wanted John and Mac to stay on and assign them tasks for the upcoming days, and to my knowledge we were happy. Now it gets muddy here because Tundra changed his mind, but did he communicate that? When did he change his mind? It changes the story, it changes the situation. Whether that was relayed or not, I don't know. But I will say I don't agree with how Tundra went about this in the beginning. But I will say respect for admitting he made a problem. He's made a mistake. All I say, Tundra, with that is just try and learn from it, mate. You know, try and learn from that and move forwards and improve. He's linking to other Facebook conversations here. Again, confusion around who owns the spot, and problems begin to escalate. Eki says, not responding well to hostility. My tone changes from friendly negotiations to more aggressive, and the owners begin to panic, and so on. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here. Wednesday, Doomsday. Grant says the coaches agreed to agreed to leave. Tundra says, up until this point, you'll notice nothing malicious from my part about taking over the org, forcing management out. But yes, I will admit I was far from right in my approach with the support staff and immediately apologised to them upon knowing how they felt after miscommunication from Grant or forcing management to sell. I don't want to dwell on this too long, guys. There's a lot in here. I'm just trying to be fair. It's all Tundra's side. More blah 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 blah. So it's more discussions between Grant and Tundra, and he says one thing, they say another thing, a kind of debate. There's disagreements there, and Tundra's just analysing the chat logs there. So, okay, so Tundra's apologised to Grant for the way he spoke to him, but understands it was clearly due to stress that Tundra says Grant was putting him under due to being in game. I will say there was some discussion apparently going on while the match was happening. I'm not sure if that should have been happening or not. Blah, 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 blah. Tundra said, the players stand by me, and please read the evidence on what I've said. The only time I've overstepped my grounds was when I misrepresented the players surrounding the need for extra coaches. I'm sorry for that and apologise to John and Mac. Players still want me as their head coach. I'll once again hold my hands up for any bluntness or rudeness or aggressive tones I display, but try and put yourself in my position, and please read this properly if you want to have an accurate opinion of the situation drama. So go and read that. Okay, but he's apologised, but is it too late? Arguably less. We're one person less in the scene who, he was new, you can say what you like, but I thought was promising for the future. Draggles has left the UK scene, gone to move to the US for Riot, and with a big old meme, Jeremy Kyle style thing. Dom Sacco show. Yeah, so that's that. More memes and banter, blah blah blah. Skip all that stuff, that's not to do with this. Haddo again has said on Grant, another hero, and Grant leaving, another hero falls due to the same person who's still greedy and hasn't changed. Good luck in your future. And some other more aggressive comments. And Grant said, the kind words of so many people is incredible following my decision to leave. Only been here 3 months and yet so many people messaging. So he's put out a post saying, why I'm leaving the UK League of Legends scene a broken man. If you're looking for any drama, it's not happening. I think he's been the bigger person there, to be honest. I really admire the stance he's taken on personally. He said, all I wanted to see was eSports grow. Got a huge passion for it. Wanted to pick up a few trophies along the way and see the scene expand. Wanted to do it his way. He now sits here breaking every moral he had. He said qualifying for the Prem was a great achievement, and his biggest regret is letting the original roster go. He says, I'm sorry guys, I let you down. I should have been willing to go 3 to 4 splits, work with a team, build from the ground up, win that way. I was wrong. Appreciate the messages I've received from you. So he wanted to form a team that could win at the first attempt. Regarding picking up a player last minute for the roster log, I was not made aware this was happening. Right, okay. I've actually missed this. I hold my hands up there. I've missed this since this came out last night. It just so happened I wasn't about, and all other members of staff went ahead with it. I will not stand here and lie in that if I was about and had been told, I wouldn't have agreed to it. It was an improvement to the team, but I just wish I'd been informed so that I could try and speak to the team in question first. Again, there's a problem with management there. If Lewis has got these players on board without letting Grant know, and they're both co-owners, there's a breakdown in communication there, and that's an error. So Grant says, I protected the players by fully taking the rap for it, released an apology and received a lot of criticism my way. I've never felt so disgusted with myself in having to do that. He's saying that he's never felt so disgusted with himself in that apologising to the two staff of the team in question, so that letting the two coaches go, it made me feel sick to my stomach, he said. And he said things got out of control. He said, I only had one moral left, to protect the players at all costs, and I broke that myself when I went to eSports News UK with the story. I felt like I had no other options. So honestly, I'm done. Losing these morals has left me broken. What happens now? Lewis and continues on. And but and Grant's left the whole scene. He's focusing on his career elsewhere out of esports. So I will say there's errors on his part, but as well, he's been pushed out, and I think to him he feels he's been pushed out, and I feel it's a shame, a great shame. Someone excited about the scene and the game could feel like he just don't want to be a part of it at all anymore. And he's thanked a few people, and he said there are good people in the UK scene, but there are a few bad eggs who ruin it. Alas, it is these eggs who always sit in the most powerful positions, whether that be as players or as orgs. The UK scene is never going to improve until investment comes. Do not leave with my head held high. I leave truly an entirely broken man in body and mind. I did say to Grant afterwards, try and have a think before you quit and give up. It was a big hurdle, arguably their first big hurdle as an org, and he's quit, and that's a shame. Okay, so last few bits. Bartiano from Team Parade said it's sad his team didn't live up to his morals and expectations. That could have been great for the UK scene. And Ped, everyone's favourite memer, has said nice ideas, initial morals and passion for the scene, but poor execution. Humble exit though, best of luck in the future. Vince has said even nice guys make mistakes. Wish him and Last Remedy all the best. And Vince has put out a twit longer bit of analysis as well. Vince basically saying what's wrong with UK League of Legends, just looking at how the tournaments have changed over the years, and saying that players with real potential gave up. Some did carry on and are doing really well, like Maxlaw and Alfari. Have people grown bored of the game? Is the honeymoon period over? Is League of Legends just following the natural order of things when it comes to games' decline in popularity? I can't say I agree with that, Vince. I still think it's going to be around for quite some time yet. But Vince saying, I feel like nothing's progressed. ESL have done a good job. GIF Gaff haven't come back, and Epic Land have cut their losses, and they've left League. And Vince says there's been a decline in the amount of tournaments. He said, so although we saw progression in tournaments in 2014, there has been a decline in the amount and remains stagnant. Orgs still lack the funds to really take the next step, and sponsors don't seem to be interested. Players still complaining and moaning and doing very little to no self-promotion, and I don't see a bright future for the game within UK esports. Love to see companies come and start offering low-level sponsorship to teams, but mate, that's not going to happen in my opinion when they see shit like this. And it goes back to the Richard Lewis thing. If we want sponsors and funding, act professionally. This goes to everyone. I'm not talking to anyone in particular. We need to really be professional, and stuff like this, I'll go on to this in a minute, puts people off. I'll come on to that in a minute. So Vince says, how can we work together? How can we come together and work towards the greater good? Or is it a case of no one cares anymore? why don't players just make their own org and play in the Prem? And if they get in the Challenger Series qualifiers and into Challenger Series, well, now you're worth some money. I mean, they can try and do that. I mean, without management, you'd argue it might be difficult. What if a couple of players fall out of each other and the whole team can collapse? There's no one there. There's no one there. Sort of, there's a glue holding them together. In my opinion, you need a manager. You need an owner, an org owner. And he says, because if you want to enter the scene and want to attend LANs, build your brand and really support your players, then you'll need about 5 to 10 grand approximately. If you haven't got that cash, don't enter the scene. Mindsets from both parties have to change. And I just want to go into one thing quickly. So we had a player approach us anonymously after the story and everything came out, and wanted to write an opinion piece for us, which I appreciate, and basically said that all we're doing is making ourselves look like idiots from all this. And they have said, they can sort of basically see where Tundra is coming from. That Grant needs to man up and take control of the org, but it's quite balanced. It's as a player, obviously they're going to be thinking they'll be on the side of the players and the coach a little bit, but he also says that it says, Tundra, you're belittling yourself, don't immediately jump on the defensive, it makes it look like you've done something wrong. And he says that stop making it out like the UK scene is some market that has huge potential. It's just a stepping stone to greater things. Okay, so that's their opinion, and that's kind of it, guys. I mean, this video has just been me reading out, analysis and people's reactions to what's happened, but I feel it's important. My lesson from all this, it comes to communication, I guess. Management needs to be there. You need to have strong management. On the other hand, I'd say coaches and players don't get too greedy. Yes, it's important. Obviously, you want to earn as much money as you can. I'm not saying that, but like Excusecast was saying, try and understand the org's perspective, and there's a way of doing things. Try and be professional and do things in a responsible way, and maybe not so aggressive. I'm sure Tundra, like he did in his tweet longer, agrees he could have handled that situation better. He could have gone to the management a little bit better. He could have thought about the coaches and how they could have had a different role, rather than just wanting to get rid of them. The players as well, choose carefully who you want to represent you to management and things like that, or at least discuss with that person first about how they're going to be representing you. And then to management as well, work closely with the players and the coach. Be clear with who you want on board, and if you're going to get into something, be prepared to be there through the hard times and the good times as well. Be prepared for crap to happen. I can only speak from a journalist point of view. I'll sometimes write positive articles about people winning a great new team emerging and winning a split, or whatever, loads of things, but then I'll also be there to write about this blooming drama and stuff as well. I don't give up because a few people have said don't like what you're doing, Dom, or whatever, and then equally I don't let it go to my head when people say you're doing a few people say you're doing well, Dom, thanks for writing articles and stuff. Try and remain grounded and everything. But look, this isn't about me. I'm not trying to force my opinions on people. It's just what I took from the situation. And let's just move on now. Like, I don't want to do videos about League of Legends drama for quite a while. Let's try and be professional and everything, and just focus on the split and have a good split and enjoy it. All right. Cheers, guys, for watching, and yeah, hopefully I can get through this backlog of other videos I've got. Alright, cheers guys.